Hello.
Hi, Sugar and Spice is back as promised.
Yes. So we are back with a set of short stories this time, and the first one by Shrija.
So, let us begin. The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. So, this is the story that I have for you today, and here goes. When Richards heard the terrible news that his friend had passed away in an accident, a railway accident, he wanted to rush and be the first person to convey the news to his wife, Mrs. Mallard, because she had a heart problem and she was a woman who couldn't take any news, especially something as terrible as this, just like that. So he wanted to be the first one to break the news gently to her. He loved his friend and his wife. He was very close to them, and he felt he should do that before somebody else might insensitively go and tell her this, and it may result in something terrible. So he first confirmed by sending a telegram, and once he knew for sure that that was the case, that the list of passengers who had been killed, his friend's name also figured, he rushed to meet Mrs. Mallard. He took her sister Josephine as well for support, for moral support. And when they reached her place and he broke the news gently to her, unlike other women, Mrs. Mallard didn't go into a state of shock. Instead, she burst into tears and she cried heartily on her sister's shoulder. She cried herself hoarse, and when she was exhausted, she told her sister, I need some time by myself, so I'm going to my room. Please don't follow me. I just need a little time by myself. So her sister waited outside. She went in and shut the door. She went to the window of their bedroom, and just in front of the window, there was this lovely, comfortable armchair, and she sank into it with a strange physical exhaustion. After all that crying, she felt a little blank. She felt a little dazed. She looked out of the window and looked at all those beautiful treetops, quivering in the wind. She could see a peddler on the road selling something, and everything looked so beautiful outside. She looked at the sky. The sky was a bright blue, and there were these lovely little white puffs of clouds, floating across. And she kept looking at all this for a while, her mind blank. And she realized that there was a strange feeling that was reaching out to her from the very sky itself. She couldn't quite place it at first. And in fact, Mrs. Mallard tried repressing it because she wasn't very sure what this feeling was. But it kept growing and growing and growing. And she sat up. And the first words that slipped out of her mouth were, free, free, free. At first, she wondered, was this a monstrous feeling to have? This was a situation where she had just lost her husband. And even when she thought of him, that kind face that always looked on her with love, she didn't know why she felt like this. But she felt that it was perfectly natural and the right feeling. Again, she felt, I'm free. I'm very free. And on this happy note, she kept looking out of the window and she thought about the years ahead, a long life that she had. It was just the previous day that she had a similar feeling, but it was on a different note because she had thought to herself, oh my God, this is such a long life ahead. But today, she felt a long life by myself. I can do so many things. She sort of thought of the summers, the winters, the spring breaks, and all the wonderful things that she could do. And she was in a very, very pleasant mood, That exhaustion that she had felt a few minutes ago had disappeared. Of course, she knew that when she would see the loving face of her husband again, she would cry, she would weep, she would miss him for a while. Because she did love him, sort of. So, what she thought was that now, when I have time ahead, I have a life to live for myself, because somewhere it happens when human beings, in relationships that human beings share, people take it on themselves to instruct their partners, decide what is right for them. And they may be doing it out of very, very good intentions, or it might be out of bad intentions, but the result is the same, a sense of being repressed. And that was what Mrs. Mallard felt. She wasn't going to miss. So she felt happy. However monstrous the feeling was, she felt happy. Her sister Josephine outside the door was paranoid. She was worried because she couldn't hear a thing inside the room and she kept calling out to her sister, Louise, open the door. Please open the door. You can't be there alone by yourself. You're going to make yourself sick. Please open the door. I want to speak to you. She heard her sister's firm voice from inside. I'm not making myself sick. I'm not crying myself sick. Okay? I just need my little space, because Mrs. Mallard was really happy. But after a few minutes, when the pounding on the door got worse, she got up and opened the door. And Josephine saw her sister looking somehow very regal, very like a queen. She looked very confident. That glazed expression that she had a few minutes ago seemed to have disappeared. So Louise came out, Mrs. Mallard came out, held her sister, clasped her sister by the waist, and both of them went down the stairs. Richard was waiting anxiously for them at the bottom of the stairs. At just that moment, they heard the front door opening with a latch key. And as Richard looked, Mr. Mallard entered, looking tired, with a sweaty shirt, fatigue written all over his face, his usual grip case in his hand, and an umbrella. And he seemed very untouched by the whole thing, because the truth was that he was nowhere near this accident. He had never been there, and he wasn't even aware of something like this, that an accident had actually happened, a railway accident had happened. So he came in wondering at his friend's presence there and the expression on his face. But at that point, there was this loud, piercing scream. Richard looked towards the ladies. It was Josephine who had screamed. And the minute he saw what had happened, he tried to block Mr. Mallard from seeing what he could see. For Mrs. Mallard had collapsed on the stairs. The doctor who came in later said, yes, she had died of a heart attack. But it was for a reason, a very different reason. She couldn't take the happiness of seeing her husband come to life. And the story ends there.
Yes, what to say, right? Yeah, it's sometimes, they say truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes.
Yeah, so the
And
feeling that she felt, whether it was right or wrong, we are no one to judge. But it's a very nice story.
and
like a
the
very-
reason for her heart attack, yes?
Yes.
Why it happened.
Yes.
Yes.
Had the husband known it, right? What was the reason?
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Funny
that's
in a way, but sometimes
it's interesting.
Interesting.
And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. Human beings are very, very complicated creatures, and never think that you can you understand a person
True.
completely. There are these layers and layers which you'll get to figure out later
True,
on.
true. And we really cannot be judgmental about any of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now,
Relationships are again very complicated.
very complicated. Oh, we all know that, I'm sure. And I'm sure if you were to give us your feedback, you would have a lot to say as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your stories too,
Absolutely.
right?
So we move on now to yet another story, and this time it's Deepti who's going to be sharing it with you.
So after that wonderful story, a very interesting one by Shrija, I am here with a very light short story again about a husband and wife, coincidentally.
It can never be simple.
Yes, and there are so many stories, right?
Yes. Especially when you speak of a husband and wife relationship. I firmly
So many
believe,
shades
yes,
and layers to it.
the layers you were talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So to my story, yeah, it's a Tamil short story by an author called Sujatha. I found these really, light, interesting short stories that she's written. This is one of them. It's called Nijattai Tedi. Means the looking for the truth, searching for the truth. That's the literal meaning. So it's about a couple, Krishnamurthy and his wife Chitra. So on like any Sunday morning, they've been married for 9 years now. So on a Sunday morning, Krishnamurthy is sitting in the hall reading the newspaper, and Chitra is sitting there just browsing through a magazine. She's waiting for the cooker, the first whistle of the cooker. So they were just sitting there when just the gate opens and somebody walks in. A man in his 30s who looks very tired, and he's got a 3-day-old beard. He looks very worn out and tired, and he has got this plate in his hand with some flowers and an agarbatti and some few notes in it. Money, a little bit of money was there. And he came in, and Krishnamurti asked him, "Who are you? What do you want?" So he said, "Sir, I am new to this place. I have just come 3 days ago, and this morning my wife passed away. The dead body is lying on the road. I don't have money to, get the final rituals done. I would request you to please help. You're a person with a big heart, I can say. From your kind face, I can say that you're a person with a big heart. Please help me." So, immediate reaction that Chitra had in her mind was, very, very, the very look on his face. He was looking very innocent and very sad. So she turned to take some money from inside to give it to him. But the next question which Krishnamurti asked, actually, it was a shock to her. He asked, "Okay, where are you from? Where do you live? Which place?" So he said, "Sir, just down the road. I've just come newly." So he said, "Please be clear, tell me your correct address." So he says, "Sir, third cross, I think." So third cross? Okay. Where on third cross? So he kept scratching his head and thinking, Sir, my wife died, sir. I really can't remember, sir. I'm just new to this place, sir. I'm asking you something else. I'm asking you your address. You would remember your address, right? Tell me the address." So again he looks up and he says, "Sir, correct, I don't really remember the exact address, but there is a theatre nearby." So he says, "Theatre? Okay, what is the name of the theatre?" So this man gets really, he just takes a step back and he says, "Sir, I think I told you I'm, in a lot of grief. If you can't give me money, it's fine. Please don't ask me questions as if you're interrogating me, like a policeman. Please don't do that. It's fine even if you can't help me. Just say that and I will go." He says, "No, it's fine. Isn't it natural of me to ask? You can just tell me the correct address and I'll give you money. I don't mind." So this man again says, "Sir, I said third cross. It's near a theatre. That's all I can remember." So he says, "You have to tell me the correct address, otherwise I'm not giving you anything." He says, "Fine, sir. It's okay." And he just puts his head down and he just goes, wiping his tears in his shirt. And as he was just stepping out, he was weeping, and Chitra saw that. From the beginning, with each question Krishnamurti was asking, Chitra was feeling very bad, and she couldn't stop herself, and she went and asked her husband, "What was the need of that? Why were you asking so many questions? We spent so much on so many things. You could have just given him a 2 rupee or a 3 rupee note. What difference would it have made, And Krishnamurti just smiled and said, "Chitra, you are so inexperienced. You just sit inside the house. You don't know anything. I know how the world is. You remember that day somebody had said they're going to Tirupati and they brought a yellow sari and showed us, and they said they're going to Tirupati, they want money. We gave them 5 rupees, and the next day we saw them in the theatre. You remember?" Chitra was like, "Yes, I do remember." And then he asked, "What about that somebody who said there was an orphanage, they wanted money for that, and they came, and then we realized there was no such street, the address that they had mentioned, there was no such street only." See, this is what the real world is. Very, very bad, Chitra. You don't know, you don't realize there is a big racket out there. They send people like this. If he had come and asked me directly, "I'm a poor man, I wanted some money," I would have helped him. But I don't want to, fall in traps like this. I'm an intelligent man. I will not encourage. I have my principles. I'm not going to encourage all this. So Chitra went inside silently, and Krishnamurti started reading the newspaper again. But he was also not, completely at peace. He could make out that his wife wasn't happy about what he did. When he went inside, he saw Chitra silently weeping from inside. "Now, why are you crying? What did I do wrong?" he asked her. So she said, "No, it's not that. No, I just felt bad. I just felt he has left a part of his sadness here and for me, and left the house. The way he wept and went, I can't really get that image out of my mind. So Krishnamurti said, see, you think of everything emotionally. I am thinking of it practically. That's the only difference. But still, if you're not convinced, come, let's go. Let's take the car, go. It's just nearby, right? Let's go, see and come back. So Chitra says, no, that's fine. I trust you. It's okay. It's fine. Now it doesn't matter. And this, just creates that guilt consciousness in him. And he says, no, I will. Even if you don't come, I'm going to go check it out and come. So she keeps telling, now why you're being so stubborn? It's okay, I'm telling you, right? It's fine. I was just crying like a fool. I know you have seen more, of the world than me, and you know better. So it's fine, just leave it. So he says, no, I'm not going to leave it like that. Since you are still not convinced, I know, I want to go and show you that you were wrong and I was right. So he takes his car and he leaves the house and he goes, and actually there was a third cross and there was a theatre there. He reaches there, and before, he didn't have to go much farther. He saw this funeral pyre burning and this man sitting with his head in his hands, completely, helpless and looking, all drawn and very, very sad. He stood there, he stopped the car for a second. He thought and he turned. He took a U-turn and he came back home. Chitra asked him, oh, you've come back? What happened? What happened? What had to happen? I asked the entire street. There is no such person there. There's no such thing there. They don't know anything about it. He says, Chitra replies, what a, world, right? What a fake world. So much lies in this world. That's where the story ends.
Okay, very interesting story, which is true. People don't want to,
We
admit that they have made a mistake, isn't it?
Exactly. And the factor of trust, she trusted him completely, but still, he could have just gone ahead and either helped that man, but just because of ego, or he would have felt that would be, as a husband, that would bring his stature in her mind somewhere, it would bring it down a bit.
Oh, he was
something
worried,
like that.
Or she may lose faith in him.
Faith in him, yes. And he didn't want that. But at the cost of what, right? It was not required at all. But at the same time, there is this practical side of you which comes out sometimes.
Because people do it. The thing is, people
Yes.
do lie. But the fact is, we don't know where to draw a line there, whether we have to trust. Can we live a life without trusting
Yes.
anybody?
And sometimes I feel women have this some kind of gut feeling, intuition that you get when you see somebody, and that's what she felt when she saw this man, and that's what kept pricking her, that we should have just helped him. What would we have lost? So I felt it's a very interesting.
It's a very something you can relate to. It's something that would happen in our everyday lives.
Yes.
It's not easy for us to admit anybody, that when you've been so
sure of something,
and when you're wrong, it takes a lot of strength, moral strength to say no.
Say no. Yes, I made a mistake. Yeah, that's a big.
So true. Very nice story. It was really nice. I hope you all have enjoyed both the stories that we have, and as usual, they are a little different from. It's not around the usual kind of stories, and we have more planned for you, right,
Yes.
Deepthi?
Different shades of life, different emotions we try to bring about. I hope you all are enjoying.
Yeah.
Please give us your feedback.
Yes.
Yes.
And suggestions if you have any kind of story that you would like, or if there's some particular story that you would like us to narrate, do send your suggestions across. And of course, your feedback will be highly appreciated.
Yes. Till we see you again, it's bye from Sugar and
Spice.
see you all.
Bye.